The main road disappeared among the sand and grassland as we proceeded. On the left-hand side, the sandy shore turned into one spine of endless cliff, with bibles of huge rocks turning to the page of deluge. Tens of meters on our footpath. At the right-hand side, slopes in green hills, varying from low saturating azure, splendid in melancholic gray of grandmother's hair, to bright spring jade as a fairyland gem of life, or a wizard grasshopper's leg. We walked along the shore all the way to the southeast, which was against the direction of the wind, and the setting sun shimmering away at our back. The more we proceeded, the further we were from the reality, as if still being in the coming train in every carriage of scenery. There will be one man or two, accompanied by one dog or two, following the retreating light of sunset disappearing at our back, following the only path without stopping, like the fisherman in the found and lost of the fountainhead of peach blossoms. We forgot about the concepts of distance and time. The fisherman followed the rivulet upstream into a cave. At the end of the cave, he entered a world where spring peach blossoms flourished over both banks of the rivulet. Fertile fields sectored by neat paths, joined cockcrows and dog barks in idyllic harmony. In our steps forward, the exotic winter and hometown spring, the history and the present, literature and footprints, gradually merged and both lost their solidity in my vision, which saw through Marsden as a window. Peach blossoms in my dream montaged onto grasses all over the slopes, and reincarnated as soft butterfly pink sunset. Only tall stalks of reeds withered in vulnerable creamy yellow. As I stared back towards the west, middle-length blades in bronze rust lake green melted into clouds of olive drab needles, short, juicy, and brighter than the winter sun. Initially, I supposed that all the differences of colors in visual world were tricks of shifting daylight. But after reminders from she, I was greatly impressed by the uniqueness of every individual life, be it a human, a grass, or a sand. All beings shed their own lights and cast their own shadows like the sun itself. If the world is the Lushan mountain from its past to its future, we are all its faces. The never two faces would look the same. No peach blossoms really bloomed on the winter shore, but we swam in the ocean of life mysteries, in the illusions of grasses as its waves. In each grass blade, there hid one soul of the moon in night azure, or one soul of the sun in daylight gold. I raised my sight to meet the end of the sky and the sea. On the horizon, in wild winds, the two bodies of grey fluids, rooted on each other, one growing outwards the sphere, one growing towards the center of the earth, the sky and the sea, two ends of one being. In the strange world where the stone gave rise to the cloud, The cloud gave rise to the rain. The rain gave rise to the tide. The tide gave rise to the wind. The wind gave rise to the sand. The sand gave rise to the human. The moon bore more secrets than the sun. Waves squeaked and beat clouds upon the sky. Piles of clouds hung over millions of feelers like alluring coralloids. Gradually, in bewildering roaring gusts, the vistas became dim and heavy. Sands under my feet flew closely across the ground, in lines as sleeping snakes, or in shuttles as buzzing mosquitoes. The Gaia revived in a strange chiaroscuro. At the moment of exchange between the day and the night, grassy round hills were like a herd of mammals in dormancy. I thought of one scene in the cartoon Tom and Jerry, when Tom the cat jumped into an underbrush in search of Jerry the mouse, and the underbrush turned out to be the back of a huge dog, with funny long hairs, looking afar or bowing down to my feet. Everywhere was covered in green. Were we as well on the back of a ridiculously huge dog in its long dream? Would we be snuffed out of the earth like a flea when it awakes? There were grasses out of grasses, hills out of hills, seas out of seas, and skies out of skies. Looking at the shuttles of sand fleeing around my feet, they resembled a mist of midges. Comparing to the heaven and the earth, our temporary kingdoms and busy lives were also just a humming of insects, whose life was no longer than one season. Though I was normally walking on the way, my inner senses were seemingly sinking into a whirlpool of salty water and sand, deeper and deeper. There was one moment when my sight caressed the coffin-like great rocks, standing so unfuzzily and unadorned, as the threshold beyond the belly of the Leviathan. I seemed to transfigure into one pitman, who returned to life, to the world of daylight, after one of the darkest dreams over 100 years, beneath the shadow of the underground carboniferous forest. Now, we're reviewing one vine of the coal measure that slightly raised its head from the bottom of one dolorous shell. I couldn't help to sigh. How ancient woods turned into soothing source of light, hiding deep inside the seabed and the coastline. Like how the waves rolled the shore day and night, rocks melted into sand. Thousands of years could have gone by, and the wind could have sent me again to the Marsden Bay. Perhaps what was now green, yellow, and blue under my feet could have exchanged their places for several times. At that moment of moments, at the present of permanence, I was then easy to forget about my life limit of 100 years. And in contrary, I would believe that I was once here, in different identities before time, throughout centuries and centuries, of tomorrows buried in barrels, and all the ashes condensed into a stone once more. I would again come back to the shore.